Our students, welcome back to the drawing table. Let me shift over a little bit. Today we are going to do inking. I had someone ask, could I show him or her, I don't remember the name, how to ink their character. So obviously they wanted to know how to ink their drawings. So I said to myself, that would be a pretty good lesson because I'm always showing you how to do the anatomy, drawing anatomy, but I've really never showed you how to ink or told you how to ink. You've seen me ink, but it's usually in fast motion. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how I ink, and we're going to talk about inking a little bit. So this might be a long video. I'm not going to make it a part 2 if it runs like 40, 50 minutes. I'm just going to keep it on one because a lot of people don't go and watch the part 2. And part 2 is usually the ending of the videos, which has the most information to me, I guess, or has the best picture because it's the end of the thing. You know, you draw it, you work so hard to draw it, and then you finish it, and then nobody sees it. So this is just going to be one whole part. So enough of the blabbing. Let's get started. So in inking, one of the first things that you need to know or need to do is be ready to ink. As I say, you always put your picture down and walk away, and you come back and you can see some of your mistakes. So when you come back, you can adjust your picture because once you ink it, that's it. That's it. Unless you're inking it on the computer and you can just, rechange it. But to me, that's kind of cheating. Maybe because I don't use the computer yet. But you want to make sure everything is perfect as you want it, so that you only have to do it one time. So one of the things that I would say that you need to do is, if you're really going to start doing a lot of inking, is find a style that you like, or an inker, an artist that you like, and kind of mimic that person's style, and eventually you will be able to create your own style of inking. So for sakes, let me show you a couple books. Let me show you a couple pages. So this guy, I don't know, this book never tells. This is like an activity book. It's an activity book, but it's got this coloring, these pages you can color inside. This art is different from the other art, and I like this guy's style. Let me see. You look at Red Skull. If you look at the inking, you're doing a lot of solid black. He does a lot of solid blacks, and then just a little feathering, just a little. He doesn't go crazy like a lot of artists, which I'll show you in a second. And I know the hands. The hands look familiar, and I want to say it's Todd Knock. If anybody knows, let me know. But this book does not tell you who does anything. It's just all this belongs to Marvel, blah, blah, blah. So as I say, his stuff is mostly solid, which you should start doing. You always do your solids first, and we'll get into that more. And then if you want to do any feathering or any hatching, you do this way. But all of his stuff is like that. And one reason I like the drawing style. I want to kind of incorporate my style into his style because I have another book. I saw this. I was at a store and they had these little books, and I picked up the cover. I just looked at it. It's an activity book, and then I went through it and I was like, oh wow, I like this. And I remember seeing his art, if it's Todd Knock, in another book that I had. I think it was another coloring book or something like that. You know, as artists, we pick up things that help us or inspire us. So again, I don't want to get too far. Use a lot of solids and just very little feathering. And that's all you need when you ink, unless you're trying to be, Jim Lee type of person. Like I said, this is an old book. This old book. It's not something you can get. You have to find it. If you compare that to, I've got a Jim Lee book. I'm going to save that for later. This is Demon Storm. This was done by Don Hillsman, right here. Don Hillsman. I knew Don Hillsman back when I was just starting. From a friend introduced me. So I used to go to the guy's house and he would show me, his style of inking. And I actually, when I saw it, I went through my books. I just pull out, some books, trying to find a black and white thing for you guys to see. And when I saw this, I'm like, I remember this only because I had the page. I had a couple pages because I used to go to his house, and he would sit down and he would show me how he inks, and he would show me his old work and what he's working on. So at one point, when we got really close, I was like, you know what? Can I have this page? Can I have that page? So I took a lot of his drawings, but saying that, if you're doing black and white, if you don't have a colorist, then you're going to want to use a lot of solid blacks to make your picture stand out. I think one of them did not have a lot of solid blacks, and it was kind of not so not so standoutish. But if you look here, I mean, he uses a lot of solid blacks, a lot of feathering. He uses hatches in the arms. So again, if your picture is just black and white, if you're doing the characters black and white, try to get as much black in there to make it, because the black actually it leads you to one point. That's how inkers do. They use a little black, a little more solid. It always leads you to a certain point, and this one is leading you to see them shooting at these orbs. I'm not mistaken. So we have that, and I'm just going through this real quick to show you like this. This compared to the other page is like solid. It's just a lot of white. So your eyes are drawn down to these guys here, and it goes up to here, and you see these little ships. And like I said, you use, and I don't know if these pages were done by Don Hillsman, but I'm just saying, check out the inking. The more blacks you use, the more it leads you to whatever. And these are like a lot of solids. And I don't know if he inked it. I don't think Don Hillsman inked it, but everybody has a different style. And because when I looked at the book, I pulled the book out, I remember this guy's face, and I remembered her. And I was like, I know this from somewhere. And this was maybe 2008 or something like that. It was a long time ago. But I couldn't put my hand on it, and I figured it out. It was like, oh, it looks like his, and it was Don Hillsman's. So, as I said, a lot of it's going to be for color, so a lot of it's open, like his shirt. He didn't do a lot of hatching in there. So yeah, let's to the next one. This is the mighty Jim Lee. Now, it's Scott Williams. Scott Williams, I mean, I love Jim Lee. I'm not taking anything away from him, but it's Scott Williams that makes him shine. I mean, his art is good, great. Good is great. But when it's time to come to ink, you need somebody to calm it down, or bring it to life or to light. So this is his penciling, and you can see like a lot of like scratchiness in here, and the lines and feathering and so forth. But when you hand it off to your inker, which would be you, needs to be able to bring it down, bring it to life. So here we have the inked. Here you have the drawing, and you have the inked. And if you can see it, I'm looking in the monitor. There's a couple places I want to show you, like right down in here where he has his little indentation in his arm. If you look at it over here, it's a lot straighter. He straightened it out, just like this part. It's a lot of lines. When you're drawing, you really just sketch, but when it comes to inking, you have to slow it down. And this is why I don't do a lot of inking on camera, because it takes time to do this, because you have to straighten all of this stuff out, like Batman's chest. You see the lines, whereas his is just kind of like quick and rough. And especially in here with Superman, I'm just seeing that these are a lot of lines. So you have to be able to take your rough drawings like this guy, and then tame it down. Find out where your solids are, find out where you're hatching, and so forth. So, yeah, and what really brings it out is the coloring, so that some of you guys might not be ready to get your stuff colored, but I'm just saying, it brings it out. But without that ink to make it all solid, yeah. All right, so let's get into inking. Now, this was a Cyclops that I did a few videos back, 8, 9, 10 videos back, maybe, I don't know. I always keep my stuff. So I looked at this and I changed a couple things that I said, oh, that's not right, I can change that. So that's taken care of. So for the most part, it's ready to ink. Now there might be a couple things that I see that I didn't put like shadow or anything in there, but I might do that with the inking. So, inking. I remember when I was teaching, I used to teach at a comic book shop. It was the first thing teaching because I took some of my stuff to the lady that owns it, and she said, oh, you are good. You ever consider teaching? And I said, not really, but I mean, I'll give it a shot. So that's how I got started in teaching. But one of my students, I would go to his house. I would go to people's houses. If I knew you were good and serious, I would come over and we'd do some private lessons. So I went over his house, and he was doing a whole book, but he was using the ink pen, regular old ballpoint ink pen. And I'm like, you shouldn't use an ink pen. I don't think he knew about drawing pens. And what I'm doing is trying to pull some stuff out so for you guys to see that I use. I got all my pens off camera reach. And yeah, I don't know if he knew about drawing with markers or brushes. And that's another thing. If you're starting out, use a pen. You can buy brushes like this. This is a zebra. This is a zebra, and I like the zebra over the Micron and whatever the other one is because their tips. It's gonna kill me. Their tips are a lot better and firmer than the other ones. You can get a Micron. I don't know if I have a Micron brush. The brushes start out nice, but they lose their firmness really quick, really quick. And the same goes for the other one. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm pausing. I'm really trying to find something. The Faber-Castell or Faber-Castell, I don't know what they call it. This has a brush, but as I say, the brush in the beginning it has a good point, but the point starts to, what is the word I'm trying to find? It frays, it comes apart, and then also, to me, it's hard to do a straight curve with these brushes. Straight curve, is that a word? It's easier to do it, even though they're thicker, it's easier to do it with this. Because you have a more firmer point than the brushes. And if you needed it thicker, you just go over it again, that's all. So yeah, you have to have your tools. Don't use ballpoint pens. As far as pens, Micron and Faber-Castell, to me I like I don't know, I think Micron is a little cheaper to me, but I mean, either one, whichever one is cheaper for you to use, you can, use it, but I've been sticking with Microns only because they were cheaper. So, all right, let's get started inking. First thing I want to do, I want to find me a small point pen. Either it's going to be a 1 or an 005, which is what I was hovering around the top of my desk trying to find. Only because the points are smaller. The 005 is the smallest tip as you can get. And I use that mainly for the face. So inking is just basically you're going over your lines and you're going to define your lines with the pen. Let me turn this on. Hopefully that won't bother you in filming, but I need this. And another thing is when you ink, before we get started, another thing is when you ink, you always want to, you don't want to move your hand around. This is my style. Okay, you might get somebody that's been inking for 99 years and they say, oh, he's wrong. You just want to, you pull your pen slightly and you turn your paper. So if I'm doing this, I'm going to do this, turn my paper, go around, turn my paper, go around. Same thing here. I'm just moving my wrist. I'm not taking my off the table, my hand off the table. I'm just pulling it around. And if I have to, turn my paper around. That's why if you've ever seen any of my inkings, you always see this, especially fast motion, because I'll do just a little bit, turn it a little bit more, turn it a little bit more. And when I speed that up, it just looks like I'm doing this. So this is why you don't see me inking. Out of breath, asthma again. All right, so let me start with the face. And as I say, I'll use the 05. A lot of times I'll use the 05 for everything, and then I'll go back over it again, but we'll get into that time permitting. So I'll start out with the nose. And whenever I ink, I get nervous, like, oh, I'm going to go off of my line or something like that, or add something that is not there. Like that line there, that was really not there. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this whole face, and then I'm going to add some stuff to it to show you, because you might be one of the ones that's like, I don't want to sit through the whole inking. So if I ink the head first, and I add all my extra lines, then you might be able to click it off and then get what I was saying. Before you brave, I really want to draw people that stay with me. Thank you, first of all. And if you do stay to the end, you will have learned something. And as you see, and another thing about using the 005, because it's so pointy, you can get in a lot of good detail, which will make your picture stand out from everybody else's picture. When you have multiple lines, like just, you see the visor, the open part of the visor. So if I do this, and then I follow up with another line underneath the bottom of it, you see how it adds that bit more detail to it. And if I had a ballpoint pen or a fat pen, it wouldn't have come out like that. You can use a dip pen, but to me, every time I have to stop and re-dip it and then come back, it throws it off, especially time-wise. But now we have the computer doing everything. All right, so we got this top of his head. Okay, so we've got his head. Let's put some neck down in there. All right, so now what I want to do is, let's just say I'm going to add some color to the visor. I'm going to make it glassish, because it is glass. So it's going to be black, and I'm going to leave some streaks in it for where the light might be hitting it. So basically he has already fired his optic blast, or he's about to fire it. So instead of trying to do that with the 005, I'll go for this pen, which, like I say, has a really good point to it. And I'll fill it in real quick. Now, I'll also I will use the 1 or this one, which is off camera right quick. I gotta remember to look at my monitor. And I will go over the head again to give it a little line weight. I'll keep the face in the 005 or with a thin line, and I will do the outside. I'll take the whole outside and I'll make it thicker, giving some pieces more thickness to bring out that line weight. Now, sometimes I will go inside just a little bit, especially if it's a separate piece. And again, anything that's like solid black, I'll use this bigger, and then I'll do the shadow. Now, when you do shadow, the most important line, the most important thing is, where's your light coming from? Is your light coming straight down? Is it coming up? Is it in front of him? Is it behind him? Is it coming from an angle? And a lot of times when we draw like the open arm, you know, there's this shadow. So my light is going to usually be coming this way. Most times when I draw, for whatever reason, I'll bring my light this way. So that will allow me to do this. So, and another good thing about studying other people's, what number is this? This is a 3. Studying other people's inking, you can figure out what shadow to put on what shape. So you have your solid piece. Always do your solid pieces first. And then if you feel you need some hatching or some feathering, then you add it. But in the beginning, if you see that that solid piece works, you won't need it. But at times I want to get a little fancy, and then I might do some feathering, because I grew up with Jim Lee and Scott Williams, and Jim he goes for it when he does his feathering. And one thing, and I'll show you off on another piece of paper as soon as I get this, which I really don't need to put that there. Sometimes I don't follow all the lines, a straight line. If I am doing a shape, let's just say I'm going to do this shape, and I want to feather it, so this is going to be solid, and I want to feather it, what I will do is I will draw right above that shape, like that, and then I will come back. Let me get just a big old fat pin, so you can see, so it'll look better. This is gray. You should have known when you picked it up that that was gray. And these pens are dying because, number one, a lot of them I don't use. And number two, I let them sit there until, until they start drying up. This is why I say don't buy pens until you really need them. So as I say, I'll have my solid piece. This is the piece that I wanted. So I want to feather it. So I'm not going to go past, I'm going to draw my invisible stop line, shall we say. So I'm not going to go past that. Now I'll have this, like, if it goes up open, let's just say this went all the way up more, and it's more light here and darker there, I will space apart the lines more. And then when it comes down here to when it gets darker, I will make them really close. And that kind of makes it blend in with the dark, which is here. And then sometimes I can just bring that line up. Or there are times when I will open these lines up. So showing you this, let's do this again. This bad boy is almost dry. One side is dry, the other side is not. So, as I say, if I'm doing like something like this, sometimes I'll open that line up. It's kind of like making a triangle. Open these lines up to pull it into this dark again. Like that's going to be my line, and I'll just put a triangle like that. But it's something you have to just kind of like practice a lot to get your hand, steady. And a lot of videos will say, take a piece of paper and just do this on the whole piece of paper. Just I'm sorry you couldn't see that. I just looked up. Do that over the whole piece of paper, and then just fill your paper up until you get your hand straight to where there's no difference between, the 3 or the 4 or the 5. That one might be crooked, and then this one is right, and then that one's crooked, or this one's too short. So you just have to take time and do that for your inking if you're really, really serious about inking your stuff. Okay, I think there was something else I was going to say about this. I don't know, I'll get back to it. All right, so let's ink this whole thing, and I'm going to sort of speed it up, unless I say something. All right, so I'm sitting here, and I'm kind of trying to figure out what, I don't really want to do the whole thing just from top to bottom. I want to jump into it to show you guys, because a lot of it is just following the line that I have. And doing something like that, something so small, if this was a comic book piece and they shrunk it, chances are you probably would never see those. And the thing is, when you draw, you try to be so perfect. A lot of people don't really even see that stuff that you're trying to do. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of times I'm slow at the jump with my book. But I didn't start out doing comics. I started out drawing the detail stuff, kind of like the live stuff. So for me, I do crazy stuff like, you know, the tongue, you know, shadow coming from the tongue. And a lot of times people they don't notice that stuff, but it's kind of hard for me not to do it. So I'm saying that to say, don't beat yourself up. Do your art and keep on going. Let's do the bicep. This bicep. So this is 005. I'm gonna round up this bicep right there. Okay, so I'm bringing this in, and don't be in a rush when you ink. So we have that, we have this, and then we have this line. But what I'm trying to say is I'm going to add some light to this, or some shadow to this. That bicep. And then I'm going to feather it again. Going about that far in the feathering. But the thing, now when you do an object, and you put light around the object, that light has to, or the shadow, excuse me, that shadow has to conform with that object. So if I do a circle, Brian, and then I do light like this, or do shadow like that, it's going to make it look like there's a hole cut out in that circle. It doesn't look like there is shadow around it. So when I do this, my solid, if I do feathering, it's going to have to conform with that circle. So it's going to have to be round like that to give it that round sphere shape. So the same thing with the body. When you do any kind of feathering, it's going to have to be round with that body, or with that particular part of the body. So let me get my thicker line and just say I'm going to do a really thick here. And they say like the front of the body, or the front of the part that hits the light, should be thin. The back of the part should be thick, the line wise. So in essence, this should be a thicker line. Let me do the whole thing. This should be a thicker line back here than this. And then you can tell, oh, the shadow's coming, or there's a lot of shadow back here, or the light is hitting here. But a lot of times when I do my bodies, at the highest point is where I will do my line weight. So even though this is going to be a thicker line, it's still highest right there. I'll do that line weight. That's a little bit too much, but it'll be like that. And then you can you can see the difference. So under here, I would do this and add some black to it. Go from thick to thin under that arm. But I always use the 005 or a 1 to do, just follow all my lines. And then later, I'll say to myself, okay, this has got to be this, or this has got to be that. I'm going to do something with this abs. All right, let's do the abs. Since it's going to be solid, a lot of it's going to be like a solid line. Or solid black, not a solid line. I keep saying that. Go ahead. And again, this one, I hate to say, it's not ink ready, shall we say? Because if you look at the legs are a little open, there's not a lot of shadow, whereas there's going to be a lot of shadow at the top. This is like, first you want to get your solid shapes. And I have no hatching instructions drawn on here. So what I do from here, after I get my solids, I'm kind of making up. So always have your drawing complete. So complete that you won't even have to ink it. But if you say, you know what, I have to ink this, there's no questions of what you're doing. Just like the Jim Lee thing, you know, it's 99.9% complete, except he has to interpret where he wants some of these lines to go. And I saw an interview with Jim, and he said sometimes, you know, Scott will call him, Scott Williams, his inker, will call him and say, okay, on page whatever, how do you want this? And then, you know, because I think it's so, if he does something, he'll just like that, and then add, and then Scott is like, okay, well, how does that go? What do you want me to go? But Jim said a lot of times he'll give him, you know, free reign to ink his stuff. So, all right, this is 33 minutes. This is going to be a minute. Once I show you the basics, the basis of what you can do, then I will speed this up, and you can watch, because you'll have the knowledge of what to do when you ink. But just basic inking is just, you're just going over your lines, and then when you finish going over your lines, then you add some line weight. Remember, your solid pieces, your solid shapes should be black, and then if you choose, but don't overdo it, because in the beginning I used to overdo it. I used to try to mimic Jim so bad till I just messed up a lot of pictures in my mind or my view point. I didn't like it. I mean, and you would have saw it, and this is great, but I see what I want in my head, and if I overdo it, then it's just screwed up. The whole picture's screwed up. And I will do some extra in the ab region. But again, if you are getting yours colored, then a lot of people are just going to look at the color. They're not going to look at the inking. Every little piece of the inking. They'll see, you know, line weight and stuff like that, but the color just, you know, it makes it pop. And again, you see I am spinning my paper. All right, let me get the top of this. And being that it's so thin, I can actually get another layer on the top of that belt, as well as on his little compartment pieces. All right, so I have that. Then maybe I want to see that maybe the light is coming this way, so I'm going to start from the bottom. I'll draw my get a sharper pencil. Draw my invisible stop line. Let's just call it that, visible stop line. And then I'll take my 005, and then I'll just add just a little bit. Trying not to go overboard. And remembering to actually put that little curve to it because this is round. And the same thing here. So if I don't connect all of the lines, like this line is not connected, I can leave it open because your brain puts it all together. But if I want to, I'll just put a few lines like here to show you, Brian, keep it on camera. Why am I pushing it off camera? I don't know. Maybe let me adjust something because I'm pushing everything off camera. Yeah, or if I'm down low and the shadow, pencil. I like the eraser, that's why I didn't throw this thing away. Like that, and maybe one here. And then I will just go there. And then following here. And again, if my lines are not connected, I'll either leave them connected or I will just, if I have something like this, and the other part is like this, I'll just add a couple lines like that so that you can see that they would connect. But if you know abs, you know that they connect. And let me just do a few lines to bring this together. And then I'll go do the speed thing. Like say for instance this. I can make these reach up a little more. Like that. All right, so I'm gonna put some shadow under here, a lot of shadow under there. So this is gonna come up, this is gonna be shadow, this is gonna be shadow. And this crease or this pull line, or actually the striations of his muscle, let me add a little shadow here and here. I should have did it with a pencil. When you decide to add something else, do it with a pencil first, because if you don't like it, you can say, no, that doesn't work, and erase it. I can't erase that. So I will, since the shadow's coming up here, I will bring this around. It's going to come out of there and go around like that. Now, once I do this, then I will speed the rest of it up. Solid line. As I said, this is why I'm just taking, bits and pieces. I'm not inking like the whole thing first, which I usually would ink the whole body first. And I can do this and add something in the bicep, tricep, not bicep, that's a delts. Come on, Brian, you know the delts. And I'm not taking it all the way down because I want a little bit of rim light. It's like a light that bounces off the ground and comes up. You can take it all the way down, but in this particular picture, I'm not. I usually do, but like I said, this particular picture, I am not. Kind of serves as a separation between the chest and the lats shadow. And here the lats are big, so I will always add line weight to the lat. And you should always have a fat marker for filling in. And this, because this is the bottom, I'm going to make that line thicker. And then have my stop line, my invisible stop line for my feathering. And then I will go, and actually it should be thicker right here to thin, but it's hard to it's hard to, why you're doing it again? What is it with this? Maybe it's the camera. Move the camera. It's hard to stop at the line when you do it the opposite way. Let me take this over since I'm going to slide it all the time. Yeah. Where was I? Okay, this. So as I say, I will start at the invisible line and pull back. Because it's really hard, as I said, it's hard to go from this way and stop. And you kind of want to keep your lines all even. So as I said before, sometimes I will do that and I'll just add a little, if I need it, the little triangle under the line. And that will add to the light and shadow of it. So from this point, I'm going to ink everything. And as I go, you can see what I was doing, what I was talking about as I do it. So I'm going to double the speed. I'm not going to be like, triple the speed, just double the speed. And then you'll see from there. All right, so here I have the whole thing inked. Now, you see the difference between the line weight here and the not line weight there? And just to add to it, let me finish up this arm, because I'm going to put line weight on all of it, or just make it extra thicker. I might not make it as bulky, but I'm going to put some weight on it. And you can see how the top stands out from the bottom. And another thing is it connects all your lines. So if you are having it colored, then you won't have any open lines because everything is thickened out, shall we say. So we have that, we have that, we have this arm. Let's put this side here. Before I start adding the shadows. And one thing I was writing down, it was hitting me while as I was drawing, to say to you is, hey, there it is. To be able to ink better, draw a junk page like this. Just draw a junk page, as in not just lines, draw actual picture. Don't make it, all that. I'm not going to draw it because it's going to take more time. Just draw a picture of a character standing, running, whatever, and then just ink it. It's something you're going to throw away. Don't always draw, oh, it has to be so perfect. Just, you should have fun drawing, at times. Just say, I want to draw, but I don't know what to draw. Just draw, a big woman standing in the rain, just any little thing to keep the hand flowing. And then just ink that. Say, okay, I'm going to set a light right here, and the shadow is going to be here, and just ink that and hatch it. And if it doesn't come out, who cares? Because you were going to throw it away anyway. So, yeah, what was the other thing? Oh, look at others inking styles, and then create your own style once you figure out everybody else's, how you want to do everybody else's, how everybody else does theirs, and you can kind of just say to yourself, I like this, I like that, I like that. And it's good if you have like black and white books that you can see clearer, the inking style clear. And this is something when I go fast, I'll make my lines straight instead of curving them like I was telling you to do. And then I go back and look at it and I'm like, why did you do that? Because it was not completed and ready to be inked. That's why. Which is why I say again, from the beginning, I need my light now. Before you ink, make sure it is 100% ready to be inked. You have every line, everything in place. And if you need to add something, add it in pencil and just take it off if you don't like it. Or don't ink it if you don't like it. So, okay, let me finish with this. Again, you see the difference between this and this. There's nothing wrong with this lower half. It looks good. But if you want it to be bolder and stand out, just give it some line weight. Like I say, right about here, I'd give it a little more line weight. Here. Maybe here, definitely under the bottom. To just make it stand out. And then do the chest. Again, I'm going to make the chest a little thicker right there. Right here. Bring that chest. That. Make some shadow right here. That goes up. This comes before the arm, so I'm going to make this thicker. And that's part of his waist love handle. So let me go ahead and finish this. And again, I'm going to speed this up because I don't want you to see me draw a line. right, so at this point, I'm thinking it would be pretty much done, but what I would do, and this is just me, is I would look for little areas like overhangs where shadow would actually, truly fall. Not just, little dots or anything like that. Like, I'll show you as soon as I get this belt. Like, for instance, under the belt or under the, what do you call these little things? Satchels? Like, I'll use a fat line. Shadow would fall under there, depending on how much light there is. Anything below something, I would consider putting shadow under it. Like, even under these, not completely because they stick out too far. So I would just do, and I wouldn't use the thick pen. I would just do, this, bring it close together, and then further out, like there's a little shadow, and then it disappears. Same thing under here, just a little. And if you can do your invisible stop line with a pen on some cases, if it's not too big. But yeah, other than that, I would pretty much hold it right there. I need to do this, The serratus. And every now and then when I'm drawing, I do a little twitch. I don't know why. When I'm inking, I do that because I'm just so keyed up that it's got to be perfect. If I mess up my lines, I'm mad. And, a lot of times that happens. And I could actually make that whole thing black. But if I left it for coloring, they would know to make this dark, to eventually blend in. And these little pieces, as I'm going, I'm seeing, little things that I'm missing. Which I'm just throwing in, which, as I said to you, you should put it in pencil. That way, if you don't like it, you can get rid of it. So this is just like some quick throw-in lines. This chin is in front of that belt, so I'm going to make that a little thicker. That messed up right there. But that's okay. I'll just make it a little thicker. It looks like he's got his mouth open a little wider. And I can add some more open lines, not so tight that you can see that's still metal, but it is in the shadows. This X. So like I said, as an artist, I can keep going forever until I can either make this picture just jump out at you or make you run away from it because I just added too much. And I've seen people that add too much stuff to their pictures. And so because this is a video, and for the sake of time, I'm going to end it right here because I think you know everything that you need to know. Emulate somebody's style, but make it your own. Draw your invisible lines. My hand is cramping up. I don't know why. I was doing yard work the other day. Like I said, draw your black shapes first. Draw your solid shapes first. If you want to feather it, draw your invisible stop line. And if you want to hatch it, so you can remember, if I'm going to hatch this, it's going to be, and I want this to be, I'm going to reverse it. This is going to be close here. You have to follow, and you're going to make it wider or more space in between to show that it's more light going to dark as you put them closer. And if you're hatching instead of just feathering, that means it's getting darker. That just goes straight into your black. You can also add that little point. Like I said, if you've got it like this, and you have your lines and it's just still too bright, add a little point to it. Add a little point to it. Add a little triangle to it. And it should, you know, it should blend in better. And as I say, if you want to hatch it, keep your point that way. I wouldn't even add the little triangle. And as you go out further, it gets lighter. And as you go closer, it gets darker. What else? I think I said line weight. Add your line weight around your curve. Like I said, I'll do the highest point is where I do the line weight to show that that muscle sticks out more, even though, yes, you're supposed to do it. The back, the bottom is supposed to be where the light hits. See, I could keep going all day until I straighten it out, make it look good, or mess it up. And that's why usually when I do speed drawings or my pose drawings, I don't add all of this to it. So, I told you it was going to be a long one, even though I've sped it up a little bit. It's not going to be as long. My timer says 1 hour and 10 minutes, which it won't be that. I'm going to do one more thing because it's bugging me and my hand is cramping. So I'm just going to put a little darker right here to show this is under the bottom. Just a little bit. Something you would not have really seen until I pointed it out. But I point it out and you see it and you say, oh, that does look a little better. And then I can do the same thing under the belt. Get off of the thing in the video, Brian. Yes, sir. So that's going to be it. So hopefully you learned a little bit more. Get out of there. Get out of there. I need you. You know how to ink, not just your characters, but any little thing. I'm getting it. I've got it zoomed in. I'm trying to get it right where in the center. And that's going to be it. I need to put deeper line in here. That's the artist thing. The more I look at it, the more I got to work on it. So I'm going to let you guys go so you can go ahead and work on your drawing. Again, I say, practice this stuff here, this little hatching, just fill up your whole page. Draw just a little something, some character, whatever, and then put shadow, some solid shadow in there, and then try to do your thing. And then you're on your way to inking perfection. And there it is. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you made it all the way through, thanks for watching. Subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, leave me a comment. Tell me if you liked it. And if you want some things, if you want to see something, let me know. And if it'll benefit the whole class, shall we say, then I'll do a video on it. All right. Not just show me how to draw Bruce Lee. So that's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next video.